Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Oh boy, where do I begin on this one? I love this game. So, of course, when I heard there was a remaster coming out, I was immediately excited. I'm pretty sure I was one of the few people that was actually excited whenever I saw the Nintendo Direct, and Crystal Chronicles was one of the titles listed as upcoming. In my opinion, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is the perfect game for a remake because the original was so marred by flaws and inaccessibility. The game itself, great, very simple, easy to pick up. You could hand it to a newbie and they would probably be able to at least get, some of the way through on the co-op campaign. Super simple, 2 buttons, that's really all you need. So it's kind of a great entry-level game. However, the problem with the original was that you had to have the Game Boy Link cables and Game Boy Advance for each person that you wanted to play co-op with. So, on top of the normal game price tag, which I believe was 60, was it 60 back then? It was either 50 or 60, but either way, good luck for getting it any less than 60 now. Then you have the price of the Game Boy Advances, which I don't remember the price of those either, will be lenient and stay 100, plus the link cables, which are probably about 20 bucks a piece. You're looking at a pretty hefty investment just to play co-op on this game when it could simply just be plug in the GameCube controller and move along with your day. I've managed to actually play 4-player co-op on Crystal Chronicles once, and it was a lot of fun. I still love that game. I'm very nostalgic for it, and don't let anyone ever tell you you can't be nostalgic for a game. It can be a bad game and you can still enjoy it because you're nostalgic for it. Just admit that it has flaws. I know this all seems unrelated, but hear me out. I need to tell you the history of Crystal Chronicles so you know why I'm so upset about the remake. Come 2020, one of the worst years to date in my opinion. I think a lot of people would probably agree. Nintendo Direct comes out and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered is announced. I'm excited. Okay, this game looks super duper promising. I hear that there's no local co-op, which is a bummer, but the game does kind of go out of its way to allow you to still play, even with just one copy of the game, so it's kind of like a pseudo co-op, because there's cross-play, which I actually legitimately believe is a good thing for games like this. Games like this could really use cross-play. Of course, it's just Switch, PS4, and mobile devices, so I mean, on the mobile devices, sure, on the Switch, great. I guess if you only have one copy, then you can legitimately play through the entire game. Kind of. We'll get to that in a second. But that's kind of how they get around, not allowing local co-op for reasons. I don't know why you're not allowed to do it, but you're not. But you can download the demo, and as long as one person in your group has the full game, you can basically play all the way through it, which I was excited to hear. It felt like they were getting rid of the requirement to have the Game Boy Link cables, but not really. And that brings me to my main problem with the game. Every single time that you exit a level, your party disbands. You're no longer from the same village. You're not fighting to protect the same village. You're not keeping the same village alive year after year. If you don't know, the premise of Crystal Chronicles is you're going out and collecting this substance from these special trees, a lot of times that are guarded by horrendous monsters and boss enemies. You have to collect this so that your village can essentially stay protected against this poisonous gas that is being emitted at all times in the area around you. I believe it's called miasma or miasma, if I remember how they call it in the game correctly, but either way, it's pretty serious stuff. And if you fail, your village just dies. So the stakes are pretty high. Aside from the fact that your party is disbanded and has to be remade every single level, trust me, it gets tedious fast. I suppose the process is semi-streamlined, so it's not that big of a deal. Progress is only made on the host's dungeon. If you go through the entire game, but you're not hosting any of the levels, your village gets nothing. So you're essentially stuck in the first or maybe first 2 areas for the entire game. You just have to wait for the invite. You're not strolling through on the same caravan like you were in the original, all going to help, protect your own town, basically wasting your time, essentially what would be wasting your time. Of course, you're still having a good time, having fun and everything, which is, after all, the point. And if my phone desk does not stop clicking, I'm gonna throw it out the fucking window. This whole single player gets everything experience goes even further than just only really progressing your village. Luckily, as the supporting characters, you do still get to keep, you know, all the stats and stuff that you collect in the dungeons or any rings that you find. They didn't shaft us that way. Honestly, the game wouldn't even be worth playing if that weren't the case. It would be very, very pointless to co-op, to be completely honest with you, which is where I believe the heart of the game truly is. Another small grievance, and I just want to work this in here because I don't really know where else to put it. At the end of every level, the host always gets a letter from their family or from someone from their town. This is just a nice little world building thing that in some cases you can actually build relationships with some people in your town or your family. Maybe they'll send you some really useful items later on in the game, or, you know, you can just send them whatever and make them really upset. But either way, it's a dynamic of the game that you do not experience being what is essentially the backup dancers for the entire experience. It's a very watered down experience, and not to mention, you just have to wait. There's 3 people that have to wait for the sake of 1 person. In the original, I'm pretty sure everyone got their own letter. At bare minimum, someone different got a different letter each time. So maybe you'd sit down one time, but you weren't always sitting down and just wasting your time going through these dungeons. I feel like I've been really hard on this game, and to be fair, I have. Rightfully so, in my opinion, but I do want to say it's not a complete failure. The base game itself is still pretty good, and forgive me if I can go into some positives about the game. Story is still amazing. Not that you'll get most of it if you're not the host character, because you can't traverse the map, you don't get the memories, but we're on to good things. So, the game is only $30. It's very accessible for players with the demo version to actually hop in with someone who has the full game, such as myself, and play through the entire game in a kind of a watered down version, I guess. But I guess that encourages you to buy the game, but is it really worth putting out a subpar game just to sell a couple more copies? Like, no, it wasn't. Not in my opinion. I love the fact that this game has crossplay. That's good. A $30 price tag is about what I would expect to pay for. If this game was $60, I couldn't recommend it to you. I legitimately couldn't. There's too many terrible decisions, in my opinion, made here that really don't make it a $60 game. It's $30, and as I said, only 1 person, the host individual, needs to have the base game, and everyone else can kind of piggyback off of them off the demo version. With that in mind, you can also play on mobile, which is kind of how they get around everyone needing their own console. I enjoy accessibility in this, right? Mobile controls are fine, I guess. They're mobile controls, they're not good, and as of launch, controller support is nowhere to be seen. Luckily, we happen to have a second Switch lying around. Our roommates have one, so Zara avoided having to use the mobile experience, which I'm sure would be awful, to be completely honest with you, but mobile is mobile, and for the price of a device you have just laying around, it's looking pretty good as far as options go. The last thing that really legitimately bothers me about not being able to set out in your own caravan, everyone is collecting different memories. Aside from the fact that the backup of your party is essentially pointless, they're not getting the same memories that you are. And at the end of the game, memories, to my recollection, I don't want to spoil it again because I've forgotten a lot of it, but to my recollection, memories become very important. So instead of remembering your memories, you have to remember the host's memories. The end of the game all leads up to this really cool moment where you finally defeat the last boss of the entire game, essentially, and memories play a really big part in that. It's just this really awesome moment, and without the memories, that moment is just stripped down to, oh, I don't care about that, I don't know what that is, I think I vaguely remember that, like that might have happened on my game. It doesn't matter. The memories don't matter. It's very hard to build the world around the idea that every single village has to do what your village is doing. They all have to go out and find the crystals, and if any one of them fails, there's even a village in the game where the crystal bears failed to come back, and the village is wiped out, basically. Nobody survived. So the stakes, again, have never been higher, but it's really hard to build a world around that sort of feeling when you have 3 of your 4 party that are basically stuck in the intro world, unless you want to play through every single level 4 times to get them up to where you are, which is a lot of fun. But I've ranted, I think, long enough about this. The Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles series has always been marred by something. something has always been wrong with the game to take away from what the core of the first game really was about. And I know, all right? I sound an awful lot like a boomer right now, and that's fine. Call me in the comments below if you have to. If you have a co-op game, a game that is primarily based around co-op, and you make co-op inaccessible, just make a good single-player experience then. Again, I can recommend this game. For 30 bucks, it's a pretty good buy. And as long as someone in your party has the full game and you're okay with getting an extremely watered down experience, you can go through all of the dungeons with that person. However, you can't go into towns later on in the game. You know, you can't, it's a watered down experience. But if you're okay with that, the game is fun. I rather like the game. It's a very great game for beginners. And if you have a soft spot for it like me, then I think you'll enjoy it. I really just hope they allow you to just party up. That would solve all of my grievances with this. If you could just party up and have a single party from a single town. That's it. That's all you have to do. And I would 100% recommend this game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. This helped me out an awful lot. If you enjoy this more ranty style of video, well, trust me, I got stuff to complain about. No shortage of that. But thank you so much for watching. Down in the comments, let me know what you think of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Thank you so much to my patrons and channel members for your continued support. I am Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.